Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge for the best hoop analysts in the business. Also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael World B. Freer, who's a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 161, the Pat Spencer episode, as the undrafted rookie guard wore number 61 as a member of the Golden State Warriors this past season. He's a tremendous story as he was a collegiate standout in lacrosse before focusing on his basketball game. His younger brother Cam is also an NBA player, and he plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, a team we'll definitely discuss later on in this show. But first things first, Bruce, it's great to have you back. You were missed last week, my friend.
Yeah, it's really good to be back. You know, I was down in Florida where it was like 200 degrees every single day, but back in Connecticut now, it was like 65 yesterday. So it was like, It's like, wow. It's like the change of seasons, right?
Yeah, nice to have that. And World B, I'll start with you on this big question. Did you have a great Father's Day weekend?
I always do. It's never a problem at all. My family knows how to take care of me.
Awesome stuff there. Bruce, how about you?
Yeah, it was good. One of my sons, Adam, came up to Connecticut. He had recently been in Scotland on a golf tour, and that's why I'm wearing his the old course at St. Andrews hat tonight. This was one of my Father's Day gifts, so I wanted to show it off to the crowd. And next weekend we'll be going to New York to see my other son, Mitch, his wife Becca, and our granddaughter Sophie. So we're excited about all that.
Fantastic.
How about you? Did you have a good one?
I had a great one. The Padres were in town, so I got to cheer on my fathers, as I like to say, on Father's Day with my daughters. So we finally got a win on Sunday, but we went to 2 out of the 3 games, and on Sunday we got to even run the bases after the game. So
nice.
A nice thrill for my young daughters to take the field with me and round the bases as if we just smacked a home run. So it was a good time had by all. And we hope that all our listeners had a great Father's Day as well. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the action that took place on Monday night. And that was a decisive Game 5, maybe, in the NBA Finals between the Thunder and the Pacers in Oklahoma City, with the Thunder coming up on top 120-109. Held the lead most of the game. Obviously, there was a short stretch there in the fourth quarter where the Pacers got it within a bucket. But an unusual game by the Pacers. I mean, Haliburton really struggled out there. They got a great boost off the bench by TJ McConnell, but they just fell short there. Bruce, what were your big takeaways from the Game 5 victory by OKC?
Well, I think the seeds of Monday night's victory were planted in Game 4. With 2:06 left in the third quarter on Friday night, Indiana had a 10-point lead, and it was really starting to look like OKC, might actually go down to these guys. They were just 2 out of 13 from downtown. They trailed by 7 going into the fourth. But then with their season on the line in front of a hostile crowd, their defense just took over in the fourth. They held the Pacers to 5 buckets, none of them threes, while SGA did his MVP thing, and they ended up outscoring them by 14 to win going away. So I really think that after that, and most people probably figured, you know what, Indiana's not winning Game 5. I mean, that was a pretty big collapse. And I think, Game 5 actually kind of started at the end of Game 4 when Indiana kind of collapsed. But look, on Monday night, OKC, they busted out of the gate. That defense was everywhere in the first quarter, in the first half. They forced 7 turnovers in the first quarter, and they allowed just 22 points. So that's their hallmark, though. They crush you on defense, and they came out of the gate, and they did it on Monday night, early on.
They certainly did. And early on, you talk about that first half. The team high in points for the Pacers was Pascal Siakam with 10. That was the high mark for the Pacers in that first half. World B, what was your big takeaways from the Game 5 here tonight?
It's just a sloppy game by Indiana at a time when against a team where you just can't be sloppy. It's unbelievable. The passes, one thing for Oklahoma City to turn on the defense and force turnovers. We know they're the best in the league at it, but the sloppy passing against a team that is going to get their hands on the ball at all times, any loose passes. I mean, Oklahoma City was the only team in the NBA that averaged over 20 deflections a game in the regular season. They're the only team in the playoffs that's averaging over 20 deflections in the playoffs, in the postseason. So this isn't, you can't make lazy passes. And what did that turn around? We talked about it last week going over the previous game, how Oklahoma City's the best in the league at not only forcing turnovers, but keeping their own turnovers down. And tonight they had, half of what Indiana did. That reduces Indiana's shot opportunities at their end, and it gives Oklahoma City more shot opportunities at their end. So it's, 23 points advantage in points off turnovers, 32-9. How are you supposed to win games like this? Here's Indiana shooting a decent, respectable 45%, shooting almost 37% from three, getting 80% of their free throws, and they get blown out. Basically, down the stretch, it's sloppy play by Indiana at a time when you just can't afford to do it. Bruce said there was, maybe there was some carryover from Game 4. I wouldn't necessarily dispute it. I don't think that was the case. I think they're just sloppy. They have periods where they were doing that. They had periods like that against the Knicks where they're just sloppy, and it just didn't cost them against the Knicks. It's going to cost them this series if they don't do a number on it, correct themselves before Game 6.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to the leader on the Indiana Pacers, that would be Tyrese Haliburton. Of course, it was reported that he aggravated that leg injury, and that seemed quite clear just watching him play out there tonight. Didn't even hit a field goal in this one here tonight. He was 0-6 from the floor, including 0-4 from downtown. So, Bruce, any hope for Tyrese Haliburton? Obviously he's got a day and a half to kind of rest up to try to bounce back for a Game 6 that's win or go home. But without him, do the Pacers stand a chance on limiting those turnovers?
Well, look, even if he plays, Oklahoma City's defense was just all over him from the get-go. Before he sort of tweaked his leg, he had absolutely no daylight. Between, Dort and Caruso, they were doing their thing out on, just like, so aggressive on the perimeter, forcing the turnovers and just making every pass difficult. So, look, I'm not going to necessarily say, because I don't really know, how significant his injury is. All I know is that even if he's at full strength, that Oklahoma City defense, man, they are just so relentless.
They really are. And if Tyrese Haliburton isn't 100% World B, they're going to need a guy off that bench to really step up. And a guy we've given a lot of credit to, but obviously had a poor shooting night tonight, was Bennedict Mathurin. 2-11 from the floor, just 7 points. As much as TJ McConnell was a surprise in this one with his offensive output, Mathurin, is there anybody else that could give them a glimmer of hope off that bench to really step up and step in for Tyrese Haliburton if he doesn't look the same?
Well, in terms of the point guard position, you figure McConnell will get more minutes. I thought he should have gotten more minutes in the fourth quarter before the game got out of hand. He was absolutely fantastic in the third quarter, really brought him back. And he was really tough on defense. He's obviously great on offense. And he just didn't see the court a whole lot until it was really too late in the fourth quarter. Indiana has a chance with it, but do you expect Mathurin to have another game like he did tonight? If he does, they're probably in trouble. Obi Toppin we've seen him more than capable of picking up some scoring slack. He had a decent game in terms of points, 12 points, but just 1 of 5 from 3. That's really not his strength anyway. So there's players that can make up for Haliburton's offense. Haliburton, healthy or not, he's had periods like this. He's had stretches like this. We know of his excellence in the clutch situations, and he's made himself a highlight reel for all time with his performance in the clutch during this postseason. but it hasn't always gone that way. He's not a 30-point per game guy, not a 20-point per game guy in this postseason. He's had moments in games where he has just disappeared, and injury or not. So there is room for people to make up on the Pacers, make up that scoring void, if you will.
The guy who's really going to have to give them much more is Andrew Nembhard. I mean, he only gave him 7 points on Monday night, and really, he was grinding away hard on defense. I mean, he was, guarding hard, but, he needs more than 7, because if Tyrese Haliburton's going to give you like 4 points for the game, then Nembhard's got to give you 20, and he fell well short of that on Monday night.
I'll say this. I agree that Nembhard could use, you could always stand to use more scoring, but man, they are really working. Like you said, they're not only is he working on SGA, but the Thunder are really working hard to get Nembhard off SGA. They're screening. The other guard is setting screens just to avoid getting that switch to get Neesmith on him or get somebody. It's really Nembhard really had to work through screens. I'm sure it's got to have some sort of impact offensively. Miles Turner, who I've almost turned around as far as his game goes. I've never been a Miles Turner fan, but he's really been impressive during this postseason. He only gets 5 shots in this game. You really expect a little bit more from him in terms of offensive output. They have guys who can pick up the offensive slack. And by the way, they need it too, because in the postseason, they're 14-0, Indiana, when they score 110 points. When they don't score 110 points, they're 0-7 now. So It's obviously if they make one more free throw and they only lose by 10, not a big deal. But that's still, the point is, you got to get some offense somewhere. And there are players that can do it, but there just weren't enough of them tonight. Indiana's the kind of team you need a lot of players to pick it up. It can't be just Haliburton and Siakam.
No doubt.
So Ross, I mean, are we going to just call this game 5 the Jalen Williams game?
We got to. I mean, I was going to say, speaking of points, the guys that really stepped up for this one, leave it to Jalen Williams to score 40 points in 35 minutes of game action. He was all over the place. Kind of showed us the full package, honestly. I mean, he was getting to the line, drawing contact, finishing it tough around the basket with a lot of contested shots. And then obviously even in opening it up there from deep, 3 of 5, had a huge 3 down there in the fourth quarter to really kind of break this one open a bit. He was tremendous in this one tonight. And I got to give credit to SGA too, because I felt like he played the perfect game. He didn't force things he didn't have to. He really continued to rely upon his teammates, which obviously opened up opportunities for Jalen Williams to go off and score 40 points here tonight. But I was left super impressed with Jalen Williams, and I think he's really emerging into one of the top players in our league. Would you agree?
No, but I would agree, absolutely. I mean, you look at his scoring output in this series in the finals. It's gone up every game. And the 3 of 5, 3 threes that he hit is what we expect out of him, the way he's been a shooter all regular season. But if you look at his numbers, he has massively struggled in the postseason from 3-point range. Even on these nights prior to this, he was, I think, 3 for 14 on threes prior to this game in the finals. So it's not, even though his scoring has increased, it's not like his 3-point shooting has increased. You mentioned it, how he's drawing fouls. Last 2 games, 23 free throw attempts for him. SGA has just 1 more. We talk about SGA always getting to the line or whatever. He's had 24, which is a lot, but Jalen Williams, 23 free throw attempts the last 2 games. That's where the bulk of his scoring, basically, not the bulk of it, but pretty much a whole lot of his scoring has gotten from the free throw line.
And it's not just his scoring. I mean, look, he is another like serious big time disruptor on defense, where a lot of the offense, like a lot of those turnovers were live ball turnovers that he was like right in the middle of causing, and he just takes off down court. That dude is fast. I mean, He is fast with the ball. He gets to the bucket, on these after these turnovers, and just was such a force out there. I remember, at the beginning of the playoffs, as we were sort of sizing up all the teams, we're saying, gee, is Jalen Williams going to be enough of a number 2 guy alongside SGA to really push OKC to the highest level and win it all? And I mean, I don't think anyone's asking those questions moving forward.
Nope. I think he's answered any questions that we've had with him. So I guess the last question I have for you both here is what's our Game 6 predictions? World B, I'll start with you.
I think Indiana's going to come back and play a much better game. I think the crowd's going to get behind them. I don't think they're going to collapse, if you will, like they did in Game 4. I think it's going to go back to Oklahoma City for Game 7.
All right, Bruce?
I agree. I think Indiana's going to find a way to, dig deep and get Game 6. Again, that is assuming that Haliburton is at least 80%, 90%. If he's not, then I'm not feeling so good about Indiana, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, look, Rick Carlisle, will come up with something, hopefully. Somebody will hopefully step up, as we said, with maybe it's Nembhard, maybe it's one of the other guys. But I'm going to predict Indiana forces a Game 7.
All right. Well, that makes 3 of us. I think behind their home court, the Pacers will find a way to edge out a tough victory against Oklahoma City and force a Game 7, which I don't think any of us would complain at this point if we have to watch a Game 7 between these two teams. That could be real fun and exciting.
This has been one of the better NBA finals, really, when it's all said and done. Considering that, going in, we tended to focus a little bit on the fact that it was, 2 small market teams, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? 2 teams that have been playing peak basketball for 3 months, and they still are.
Yep, no doubt. All right, we had a trade go down for our first trade officially of this NBA offseason for at least 28 other teams in the NBA. And it was a pretty big one as the Orlando Magic acquired Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and a first-round pick swap. So big deal, big news in the NBA. And World B, we'll start with you as our Magic fan here on the crew. So what's your big thoughts on Desmond Bane? Is this the guy? Because it sure seems like the Orlando brass thinks Desmond Bane is the missing link.
Well, it better be. They threw a lot back to Memphis, and they took a nice big contract on their hands too. So it better work out. Yeah, for me personally, when I saw that, I thought it's a lot to give up, but it was the right move, I think, to fit what they're trying to do. They get much needed shooting help. This is the worst perimeter shooting team. 3-point percentage was at the bottom of the NBA. It's been their bugaboo for years now. They just don't have very many good perimeter shooters, and this hopefully solves it. Now, we thought this was, Magic fans thought it was going to be solved last season when they signed Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and obviously that was just a disaster. He was a good guy. He didn't seem to be a headache. I applauded the signing last offseason. I thought that was going to be the difference. It just didn't work out. It was just had the worst season of his career. It was nice that he put on a Magic uniform when he decided to have it. So it just didn't work out. But here's the thing. All on social media, a lot of scuttlebutt is, they gave up too much. The 4 first-round picks. How can they possibly do that? Well, here's the deal. The Eastern Conference is suddenly in flux. I think we all, after Boston, the situation with Jason Tatum really makes this, I don't want to say wide open necessarily, because it'd be kind of an insult to Indiana and what they've achieved, but it's very competitive now, much more than we probably assumed it would be. When you have the Knicks aren't going anywhere, we don't think. Indiana clearly at this point looks like the class of the East. Milwaukee's on the downside. Boston looks like they're going to at least have a hiccup for a year while they recover from this. Cleveland has put up the best record in the East, but we haven't seen them do it in the playoffs. So the Magic have a shot with the right pieces to do something. And look at the ages here when next season begins. Bane's 27, Paolo's 22, Franz is 24, Suggs is 24, Mortez Wagner is 28, Wendell Carter Jr. is 26, Jonathan Isaac's 28, and the bench, Anthony Black is 21, Jed Howard is 22, Tristan Da Silva is 24. Nobody's hitting 30 anytime soon. This is the future. I know what the draft picks are, and that's a lot to give up. But the old saying, the future is now. Well, it is in Orlando.
Yep. Bruce, what were your thoughts when you saw that come in? You had to have your eyebrows raised at that return package.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love this move for Orlando. I mean, Bane's a career 41% shooter from downtown. That has been their big, problem. He also hits the boards, 6 rebounds. He's a good playmaker from the shooting guard spot. 5.3 assists, better than a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And he's also a really solid perimeter defender. As World B mentioned, he's not even, he turns 27 in a couple of weeks. So between the 3-point shooting and Desmond's going to give it to him. As for those draft picks, as World B ticked off all the ages, my first thought was, it's okay. The team is so young. They don't really need to get younger. They need to get a little bit older, as a matter of fact. And bringing in a guy like this, I think, with the possible upside that he gives them, I'd give up those draft choices for a guy like that because, with Paolo, with Franz, with Carter, with Suggs, and now with him, I mean, that team's loaded. And, they play hard, and they're only going to get better. So, yeah. And look, if there was ever an addition by subtraction, it was getting KCP the heck out of Dodge City, because that was truly the biggest awful free agent signing in the entire league last season. So, all I see is upside for Orlando in this deal.
Yeah, I like the playmaking aspect of this for Orlando too. I think that's something that maybe isn't being talked about enough right now, but I think come next year, we're going to see the ball in Desmond Bane's hands quite a bit, actually, for this Orlando Magic team. And it's going to be much needed, of course, with their guard play. And I think he can definitely help open some avenues for Franz Wagner and even Paolo Banchero. So keep an eye on him as more of a playmaker. I think he can only improve that 5.3 assists average he had last season.
One thing about this whole deal that was a disappointment for me from the Magic side, they gave up on Cole Anthony. They really gave up on him last season. They never really liked him on the court. He was almost on the court by necessity when they had so many injuries. He wasn't a part of the rotation when everybody was healthy. And he really, when they were struggling for scoring because they had so many injuries, he really bailed them out of a couple of games. And he never was appreciated enough for me by the Magic, either by the coaching staff, front office, whoever. But I don't want to say he got a raw deal, but he pretty much got a raw deal in Orlando. Kept, attitude was good. He kept, everything positive. He just never got a really good shot last season. So now maybe he gets a better chance to contribute over in Memphis.
Yeah,
I think
stays in Memphis.
I think he's going to do well in Memphis because, look, he's a solid second unit guy. I mean, he has big nights on occasion, and he plays with that kind of chippy attitude that Memphis fans will definitely appreciate because that's the whole grindhouse mentality down there. And Cole, I mean, look, he could be a little bit borderline sketchy at times, but I think, that's going to play well in Memphis. I mean, that kind of fits in with the style of their franchise. So, I mean, their biggest problem in this deal is if KCP isn't any better than he was before, then, I don't know what he's really going to add. I mean, he kind of almost looked this past year like what happened to the game? Did he just fall off the cliff after he got a nice contract? I don't know. But, I mean, maybe getting back into the Western Conference will help him. I don't know.
It wasn't a lack of effort on his part or whatever. I don't think. As much as it frustrated me as a fan watching the Magic to see him, I cringed. I hadn't cringed when somebody took a jump shot since Charles Oakley back in the Knicks days. So, I mean, it wasn't, that's not how I want to watch him play, but he was reliable on a team that just struggled with injuries. He played 77 games. He was in the starting lineup all the time. He just couldn't find a jump shot. And when you're a shooting guard and you can't shoot, you really kind of run out of things to do on the court.
World B, I thought Campaign's jump shot made you cringe too.
Ooh. Yeah, that didn't help either. But he didn't see enough time for me to cringe. Out there.
You also forgot Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, but that's okay. You can focus on Oakley.
Well, I was laughing more than cringing when I saw that.
Hey, come on! You're talking about Syracuse great Michael Kidd-Gilchrist there, guys.
Oh, he went to Kentucky.
That's Kentucky. You're thinking Michael Carter-Williams.
Same thing.
Same thing. Like that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this from Memphis's end of the trade, because I do want to focus on this real quick, because for Memphis, I thought as much as this was, a great pickup for Orlando, this was also a no-brainer for the Grizzlies. They're huge winners in this deal, receiving 4 unprotected first-round picks and a pick swap. And I think it's worth mentioning with the Grizzlies that this has been a team in the recent past that have both drafted and scouted well, with finding talent out there. And if you just take a quick look at their current roster, Scottie Pippen Jr., who's kind of developed into a nice piece for them. He was actually an undrafted player. Santi Aldama was the 30th pick overall in 2021. My guy, G.G. Jackson, 45th pick overall in 2023. Obviously, they picked up Edey last year with the 9th pick. So these guys have like a formula that works for culture builders and kind of the talent and athleticism they're looking for. And as our guy Joe Dorr on last week's episode let us know, the draft next year is just as talented, if not better, than this year's draft. So they're going to have their chance to pick up some really big talent here. And my first question to you, Bruce, is do you think the Grizzlies are done? I mean, if they're able to get 4 first-round draft picks and a pick swap for Desmond Bane, is Ja Morant or Jaren Jackson Jr. potentially next?
I mean, you got to look at those two guys as sort of like the cornerstones of their franchise. I mean, certainly, Triple J is with Morant. I mean, he's so freaking talented that, you just want to give him every opportunity to, to succeed, as much, from here up as from here down. You just, because, he's such an electrifying talent. Look, that franchise, they got question marks, here, there, and everywhere. I mean, they got rid of their coach late in the season. They hired a guy that nobody had ever really heard of. And, but look, we'll see. The West is so hard. I mean, they might have to take a half step backwards losing Desmond Bane, but yeah, the potential for 2 steps forward with all those draft assets is there. So look, nobody's looking at Memphis saying, oh man, they blew their chance to come out of the West next year. I mean, They were not, and they will not.
Yeah, good point there. World B, what's your take? If you were a Grizzly fan, do you want them to keep trying to explore trade options for some of these key pieces on the team, given what they got for Bane?
Well, on the surface, you could say that, but it doesn't sound like, reading the reports or whatever, that Jaren Jackson Jr. or Ja Morant are really going to be on the trading block. I think they cleared up. They want to get that contract out of there as much as possible, too. They don't want to get close to that second apron, and that is a big contract for Bane. I believe it's another $160 million for the next 4 years. I believe that's right, if I read that correctly. So they want to unload that contract as much as anything. So I don't think, on the surface, it looks like the beginning of a rebuild, but I don't think that's the case, because it just seems like, from what I read, those guys aren't on the block. Jaylen Wells can step in and take over Bane's spot on the wing. They want to be more up-tempo. They want to be more fast break style, three-point style. So, it might be a different look, but I think if you're going to be more up-tempo, you want Ja Morant running up and down the court. On the other hand, I'm one of these players that is not, or people that is not as enamored with Ja Morant as the rest of the league is. I think he is, I don't want to say overrated, but he is certainly overvalued in my opinion. I think he's injury prone. He cannot shoot for anything. He's just a terrible shooter. He has highlight moments, absolutely, but can he stay on the court long enough to be a huge impact on this team? I don't think he's going to get traded, but if I were Memphis, I would at least explore the opportunity and see what kind of haul you could actually get for a guy like that if you got all those draft picks for Desmond Bane.
Yeah, I would like to know what the Sacramento Kings might give up for Ja Morant, because that seems like a franchise that would love to get their hands on Ja to kind of make up for the De'Aaron Fox trade and kind of see what would happen there. But speaking of guys on the trade block, let's talk about Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, because KD has come out and put together his 3 preferred trade destinations out there, and that includes the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Houston Rockets. Bruce, of KD's favorite 3 destinations, is there any favorite that you have you'd like to see him land?
Well, it's interesting that 2 of the 3 teams are in the state of Texas, where he went to college. Yeah. The 3rd team is in Florida, which, along with Texas, has no state income tax. So when you're making $54 million a year, you're saving millions on your tax return. So I got no beef with him choosing those 3 teams. Where would I hope to see him play? I would love to see him go to San Antonio, and I think a lot of people would. To see him play with Wemby, to see him play with Stephon Castle. If he goes there, those 2 guys will stay. People like Devin Vassell will probably go and, have to go in that trade, whatever. But I would just love to see him in San Antonio. I don't know about Houston, because Houston has sort of more marquee assets that they could maybe trade, but are they going to want to? I don't know. But certainly if he's chasing a ring, Houston would seem to be the best of those 3 spots to go to. They're clearly the closest at this point. Although with Wemby, you just don't know. I mean, Wemby could all of a sudden turn into like the best player in the league or one of the best players in the league if healthy. And again, when you have a guy like KD, I mean, not going to be any easy shots against that team if he's out there.
No, not at all. And I just like the idea of Wemby kind of getting a carousel of NBA legends to come through to kind of help him continue to mature his game. This year he had Chris Paul. Maybe next year he has Kevin Durant. The year after, who knows? But like the more greatness you can put around him for even a season at a time, I think is only going to help benefit his maturity as a player on and off the basketball court. World B, what was your take on Kevin Durant's list? And do you have a favorite spot for KD?
Oh, my favorite spot, since he's making these demands that I only go to these 3 teams, my favorite thing for him would be to stick around for another season in Phoenix and let him deal with that mess. I mean, Minnesota sounds like they'd be interested in trying to work out a deal, but he sounds like he doesn't want to go to Minnesota. So clearly, of these teams, he's not really searching for a championship at this point. I think we can say he's done with that. If he doesn't want to go to Minnesota, of the 4 teams between the 3 we mentioned in Minnesota, they're the team that is on the cusp of a title more than any of the others. So clearly his desire is not to be on a championship team anymore, which is fine. He wants a team that will sign him to a nice long 2-year deal for big bucks here once he gets there. So these are the 3 teams he would like to go to. I agree with Bruce. If he wants to win a championship of these 3, I think Houston gives him the best opportunity with the pieces they have. Even if they had to give up some of them to get a KD, they would still have, I think, with him around, plenty of opportunities. San Antonio, here's my question. If he goes to San Antonio, does that make Wemby and KD the thin towers as opposed to the old twin towers back in the Rockets days? Between those 2, do they even weigh 200 pounds between the 2 of them together? It would be interesting and fun in San Antonio. I worry about the injury factor with both those guys who, for different reasons, have dealt with injuries of late. And then Bruce mentioned the Miami Heat as one of those teams. It sounds nice for KD to go there, but does KD's presence make Miami suddenly a contender in the East again? I don't I don't see it. I don't.
No.
You could pair him up with Herro and Bam and KD. That's a nice three, but I don't see them being any more closer to a championship with KD on board than they were, yesterday.
I was reading Marc Stein, his Substack, and he was talking about what would Miami be able to offer for those guys. And he was talking about a package that involved like Andrew Wiggins and Duncan Robinson and some draft picks. If I'm Phoenix, I'm not even answering the call if that's what the offer is. If Miami isn't offering either Bam Adebayo or Tyler Herro, I mean, why even take that call if you're Phoenix? I mean, Duncan Robinson, seriously? I mean, really? Andrew Wiggins? I don't think so.
Well, the problem for the Suns is, in Ross, as our resident Phoenix guy knows, it sounds like if you read the reports, they're kind of in a financial pooper right now, trying to figure out if they can pay the salary. Bringing on Bradley Beal was obviously a disaster, and now the only reason they're getting rid of KD or want to get rid of KD is because he's their most tradable asset without totally destroying the franchise by getting rid of Devin Booker. So they're not in a great bargaining position right now. So Miami can offer Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson, and some picks, and maybe it turns out that's the best offer from the three teams. If nobody really wants to play hard, make a really strong play for KD. The Suns are in a tough spot right now. Their bargaining power is really low.
But you know what? They could trade KD to somewhere that he doesn't want to go if they can get a better deal too. It's not like, oh, we have to be nice to KD. It's like, no, you want out, we'll get you out, but we're not going to give you away.
Well, does he want out or the Suns want him out?
I think it's both now. I think it's a mutual thing now because the Suns have come out and said we recognize that KD has put together his list of 3 teams he wants to go to, but we're going to do what's best for the organization too and take the best deal that's out there. So I think at this point they're willing to move on from one another, and I think it's a mutual agreement. But fortunately, it hasn't been like too bad of a divorce just yet.
See you in Charlotte, KD.
Maybe they can trade him to Philly for Paul George. The salary numbers more or less match. So
yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if the Suns want Paul George in town, but I will say this: a couple months ago I said if the Suns were really looking to try to win now or even rebuild the best they could, it'd be actually trading Devin Booker, which would hurt the souls of a lot of diehard Suns fans. But you look at Desmond Bane just got. What are you getting for Devin Booker? I mean,
absolutely.
If Bane goes for 4 unprotected in a pick swap, Booker is at least 6 unprotected in a pick swap.
I totally agree, Ross. If you really wanted to get something and turn your franchise around, have the best opportunity to rebuild, retool, whatever, absolutely. Devin Booker is the guy you throw out there in trade opportunities in terms of what you're going to get back. I totally agree, but you're absolutely right. That would be a disastrous PR move. That would just signal a awful to see for the owner who's only been here for a couple of years to pull a stunt like that would not look favorably on that franchise.
Yep. And you mentioned owners, so let's go ahead and just talk about it, World B. The Knicks' ongoing coaching search. They're rumored to be meeting with both friend of the show, Mike Brown, and Grizzlies former coach Taylor Jenkins sometime this week. But this coaching search, World B, it hasn't gone very smoothly, has it?
Oh, smooth as sandpaper. I mean, it's really turned into an embarrassment. You fired the best coach you've had in a quarter century, and because for whatever reasons, it sounds as if some players were disgruntled. Tough. I mean, geez, you just had the best season the Knicks have had in a quarter of a century, and you're upset. I mean, give me a break with this. And then it's clear they did not have a plan when they did this. They thought maybe they call some coaches, some teams about their coaches, and as we mentioned before we went on, I'm sure there was some laughter at the other end before they hung up the phone on the Knicks because of some of these names that they were going after. And now they don't have to make a decision right now. There's nobody's saying they had to make a decision the next day. They can wait another week or whatever, although you got the draft coming up and who knows what they're going to do. But the way the process is going right now, it's really an embarrassment, and it's who knows what's you got. We all like Mike Brown. We all think the world of him. He's great. It was great on the show. We loved him in Sacramento, the way he turned things around there. But the fact that he was not their first choice or second choice or third choice if you go by the phone calls. So at this point, it feels like you're almost settling for whoever
it does.
agrees.
Yeah. And I
That's
just
not how
don't
it's supposed to
understand.
be.
Did they plan on just taking the risk of tampering? Because they're like, oh, we're going to call Jason Kidd, talk to him. And then they're like calling Dallas and, hey, can we talk to Coach Kidd? No. And it's like, I don't know, Bruce. Can you knock some sense into me on what's going on in New York? I don't get it.
I want to talk a little bit about silent movies for a moment. Okay. In the early days of motion pictures over 100 years ago, a fictional group of well-meaning but incompetent law enforcement members known as the Keystone Cops were created and appeared with movie greats like Charlie Chaplin. Soon after that, the term Keystone Cops became used to criticize any group for its mistakes and lack of coordination, particularly if either trait was exhibited after a great deal of energy and activity. So, last season, Leon Rose and the Knicks front office acted decisively and successfully in trading for Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges. But after losing to the Pacers last month and firing Tom Thibodeau, Rose has not had any success in finding his next head coach. In fact, the pursuit of Thibodeau's replacement has taken on a Keystone Cops vibe. They've asked permission to speak to 5 currently employed NBA coaches, and they got the same answer each time. Nope, 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 and hell no. Okay? So whether it's Rose or James Dolan calling the shots, they look like a bunch of, Keystone Cops. So here's my advice. Earth to Knicks. Stop trying to poach other teams' coaches. It makes you look lame. Call Mark Jackson's agent and offer him the job. New York fans will love it. He has been a successful coach who deserves another chance after helping prepare a young Warriors team to become a dynasty under Steve Kerr. So forget all these other coaches. Call Mark Jackson, and I think that will be a very good hire for the Knicks. Drop the mic, Bruce.
I have not thought about Mark Jackson, but at this point, I mean, certainly give him a call and have a sit-down discussion on what kind of ideas that he's generated for how he could, help improve this team, World B, for a lack of a better term. I mean, what are you asking in the coach's interview? How are you going to make us better than what Tom Thibodeau did? Is that what's going to be discussed here? Or like, I just find it hard to the Suns interview is easy, right? It's like, we had dysfunction this year. We didn't have great defense. Our offense struggled, even though we had Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and we added a point guard in Tyus Jones. Those are easy questions. What kind of questions are you asking coaches after the Knicks had such a season?
That's a very good point. What do you ask? You got a team that was a couple wins away from playing for an NBA championship, and now you got rid of the guy that was a key figure in your turnaround, your resurrection as a franchise. Bruce mentioned Mark Jackson. I have my apprehensions about that only because I don't know where he helps them offensively. Maybe he improves them defensively, but you just got rid of a noted defensive coach in Tom Thibodeau. So I don't know if it's the coaching or the personnel that makes it incapable of this team playing better defense. The problem with this situation is you have a team that is legitimately now on the cusp of a title run. I mean, they're right there for a title, and you got rid of the best coach. Yeah, you're going to bring. I don't think you can bring in an assistant from another franchise like Sam Cassell, for example. Just throwing a name out there, simply because you're going to ask somebody who's a first-time coach to take over a title contender, which is what they are at the moment. The personnel-wise, they're a title contender. So you're who you're going to get. All these coaches that Bruce mentioned, all these teams have said no, and now you're left with maybe a Mark Jackson, maybe a Taylor Jenkins, who personally, I would go for Taylor Jenkins or Mike Brown at this point. It just isn't their first selection, and you wonder, what direction are they going in? It's a very good question because you're asking this guy to take over a championship contender and get us better than Tom Thibodeau took us. Good luck with that.
Yeah, very tall task there. So we'll continue to monitor that, and it will be an entertaining ride as usual for New York and Knicks fans. But
it's been a real entertaining ride here. This last 3
stopped.
weeks have been really a real hoot.
Well, with that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes Podcast on Believe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week. Be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.